Okay, so we're going to do the demonstration on the shoe drawing. So what I want to talk about is the process for how you would realistically draw your shoe. So you're either looking up a shoe online, or you can take your shoe off of your foot, put it on your desk next to you, and try to draw it. So let me just talk about a common beginner thing that will happen. So a common beginner would take some tool and they would draw really dark, and they might just try to draw they might just do something like this and really quickly draw a shoe, and then they might draw shoelaces like this. Okay, this is something I'll see a lot from beginner drawers, okay? And this might be what you think your skill level is right now. What I want you to do is I want you to work to improve that. So a lot of what we do in this class is observational drawing. So the idea is to really look closely at your shoe. So don't generalize it as a simple basic shape. Actually look at the line and follow it. So we're going to go back to this. And you also want to think of building it up in layers. So the first thing you're going to decide is, do you want to do a black on white, or do you want to try a medium ground? You could put a background color on there if you wanted to. So if you wanted a brown background or something, if you wanted to do black and white charcoal, you could do that. I'll leave that up to you. For this example, I think I'm just going to leave it on white just to keep it simple. So where I recommend you start, because this is going to be layer based, it's starting on just a base layer. Think of the base layer as your undersketch, and this applies to digital drawing and real drawing. You want to get out of this mindset that you're drawing the final finished line right away. You want to think of it as loose and sketchy, and you want to build the drawing up. Okay, so I'm going to go to a pencil tool, and I'm going to go low opacity, because this is just a light undersketch, so maybe something like a 40. Pick just whatever line size you want. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly try to sketch out while following the shape. So it shouldn't be one continuous line. I really think of it as scratching at the paper, because then what it is I'm looking more at my drawing or more at my object. So you should be looking more at the object than the actual drawing. And you're slowly trying to build that shape out. Now here there's a bunch of laces and stuff. I'm not going to worry about all the detail yet. We're just getting some baseline shapes and lines in to kind of get it so that it looks how we want. And I kind of see a curve kind of coming up here and that. And then the other thing I like to do is I like to use reference points. So just as an example, if you can see where my cursor is here on the right, I'm kind of looking at this back heel right now. So once again, when I'm drawing it, I'm not just trying to draw an oval or whatever I think the shape is. I'm really looking at the line and following it, and maybe look at where it intersects another line. So it intersects right on that little crease there. So I kind of have that crease right here, so I'm going to make it come out of that spot, and I'm going to make it kind of come around to the back. And if you're ever trying to locate a spot where there's an intersection or something and it doesn't line up right, force it to line up, and it might mean that somewhere else you made a mistake. So always don't be afraid to reevaluate your drawing. So I'm going to come back to the back heel here, and I'm not going to sit and do this full drawing, right? It's going to take me a while to do it really well, but I'm going to give you a quick baseline as to the process, okay? So we're going to go like this, and now I'm kind of just looking at this bottom where the sole is here, and then this kind of comes out. And so what I'm noticing is this front part is kind of skinnier, and I kind of just drew this line here. So now I'm going to kind of dip down, and I'm going to kind of start to turn this into the sole underneath here. And I'm going to let this kind of go under, and it's going to be a lot thicker down here. And don't be afraid to zoom in and zoom out as you draw, depending on where you're at, okay? Because here's the thing, with this assignment, right, I'm expecting this to take 2 to 3 class periods to draw really well, bare minimum, right? The students that aren't understanding this process or maybe not putting their full effort in, everybody could draw a shoe super fast, right? You all could draw a shoe in 5 to 10 minutes. But the idea is, can you draw it well and can you do all the detail? So if we really look in here, even at the sole, there's an intricate shape in here I want to get. There's some textures in here, and later on I'm going to want to try to shade and get those. We have the logo, we have all of this texture here, and we have the laces, right? So I'm just going to get some of this detail in. I'm not going to draw it perfectly as if I were really sitting down to do it, because once again, I don't want the demo to be too long. You can see I'm just kind of going over it right here, and you're just getting a base under sketch here. I might quickly try to loosely get where this is, and once again, I'm trying to look location-wise, where does that symbol sit? Where is it in relation to the other lines on the shoes, and can I position that properly? So, and for those of you maybe that are beginner drawers, something might look difficult or overwhelming. but anything you draw, it's just a series of lines and shapes. And if you break it down and simplify it, it's not that bad. I think the common problem with people that maybe don't draw as well or feel like they don't draw as well, they're just not examining closely enough or paying attention to the detail. They're not letting themselves really dive into the detail of the object. So try to let yourself do that, especially if you're a beginner drawer. This is going to be the first step to improving your drawing ability. Let yourself be really detailed and really focus on that. So now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to kind of mark the area where I see the laces in here, right? Now this is a common mistake where, like for something like the laces, I would see a beginner just do this and like just draw lines. Well, the laces aren't just skinny little lines, right? They're actual thick objects. So let me go back to here. Or we'll just back up here. So I want to back up and erase those lines, okay? So when I look at it, I really want to dive in close. If you look at my cursor down here, there's actually like a metal ring, and then it kind of pops out of the ring. So you want to pick a spot and start. And in your head, if you're thinking that sounds really tedious, that's good. Good drawers are tedious, and they really look at all of those little details. So this is something too where maybe I want to zoom in. Maybe I need to get a little bit thinner here just so I can really get in and get this detail. And what you're going to find is if you really start to zoom in, you're really going to be able to nail some of these details. So now I can see this shoelace is kind of coming up here, and it's coming up like this. So for those of you in class watching and those of you online, I mean, if I'm watching you draw this in person, what I want to see is I want to see you zooming in. I want to see you getting really close, really looking at all these fine details and looking at where are the laces crossing and trying to actually get that thickness and line that up, right? And then there's another spot there. So you guys get the idea. I'm not going to sit and draw the whole shoe, but you can start to see a basic sketch there. So the process is start with this underlayer sketch, get it as detailed as you can. If something doesn't look right, then this is where you tweak it and fix it. Erase it. So if you're drawing physically, you're drawing with a light pencil here, you're keeping it light and it's easy to erase. So the next step would be, I might add a layer on top here. And remember in Canvas, everything stays separate, so I could make that layer visible or invisible if I wanted to. Where did it go though? I don't want it like gone. There it goes. Okay, so it popped up there. All right. So let's say I want to draw on the second layer here. Now, let's say I'm ready to do the shading. Let's say I got my nice sketch in there. I want to do the shading. What I recommend is either go with a pencil or a charcoal, but I suggest you go with something that's a little bit thicker, and you might have to test on the side and see like how wide do you want it to be. That might be a little bit thick for what I want to start. Okay, so let's go a little bit maybe smaller than that. And for shading, I recommend you go very low opacity, like somewhere in maybe the 20s. Right, like something like that. And now you can see my shoe is fairly dark, and then it is a little bit lighter down here. So what I might do is down here, I do see some value. Why did that disappear? Okay, I don't know what's going on here. All right, let me just go. Oh, there we go. I had the layer set invisible there. Now I think we should be okay. I think because I kept backing up. All right, let me try again. Okay, we should be good. Perfect. Okay, so what I would do is I would start down here and maybe just put some base value in, right? So like down here, I'm really trying to match the value I see in my picture. So I'm seeing like just kind of like a light gray, something like this, and it does start to get light out here, so I might slowly blend that out. And then I could get really detailed here, right? Like I could get in here, get really close, I could change the thickness of this, right? And then I could say, all right, wherever I start to see some of these forms and shapes, like I kind of see like an edge here that's kind of coming up and it's starting to round out, and I can start to add like that little roundness in there. And you can start to get some of these values into the shoe, and it's going to start to make it look a little bit more dimensional as you do that, right? And once again, you're going to have to zoom in, maybe get really small, but I can see maybe a little bit more value there. And if you're low opacity, that's what's going to allow you to start blending and start to do some of those things, right? I can go up here into the main part of the shoe, right? And all of this is fairly dark, so I might start by going over here and start to kind of shade in. And up here, this might be a little too thin. I could make it thicker if I want to start, especially if I'm doing a large area. But rather than just make your charcoal dark, even though this is very dark, I would keep it light like this and just keep overlapping it and slowly darken it up, because then you're going to be able to start to get what's going to look more like a realistic blend to it. And then we're going to kind of go and build that way. In here, we can see this pocket's really dark. And so what I want to do is I want to darken this to the point where it starts to separate. So I'm going to keep overlapping until I start to see the separation, that there's the hole and there's the edge. Because the general idea in realistic drawing, is you don't want to see bold outlines. You really, like if we look at objects in real life, what creates a line or separates it, it's different values. So by having this inner part darker and then we have that contrast of that edge out there, now we can start to see that inner part start to pull out. So you can kind of see the process that I'm doing. So you're starting with a sketch, you're building it up, and now I'm going to keep layering values until eventually I finish the drawing. And once again, you're zooming in and out and really being detailed with that. So hopefully that helps for you guys starting out. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here.